Hello, everybody. Just think lightly. So that'll do. All right. 1 second. I always think I'm getting ready, and like I'm totally ready by the time the stream's supposed to start, and then I start the stream and I'm not ready yet. Every single time. But that is okay. I think we're gonna spin these up and then card some more maybe. I'm curious to see how far 13 takes. And additionally, I am in a lot of extra pain today, so I don't necessarily know how long this stream will do today. And due to that, I don't necessarily want to spend the entire time carding. Some carding is good, but not all carding. I did check on that scheme that we made yesterday, the dyed scheme, and it's still not dry actually. I had it hanging in my shower, like off the shower faucet knob, which is where I usually have things dry because it can just drip down into the shower and doesn't cause any issues. But it doesn't get a lot of ventilation in there, and it stays pretty cool in there also. So maybe not the best place for any bigger schemes. But I think by tomorrow morning, it should be fine. So I'll probably bring it to work tomorrow morning. And just knit that up and see what happens. Or at least knit up the orange / pink part of it. It looks very orange in my bathroom and not very orange outside of my bathroom. So thinking of it as orange now. I don't know how loud the traffic sounds are for y'all, but apologies if you can hear them. They're very annoying to me. I feel like living on a somewhat busy road and hearing tons of traffic has made me just really personally despise people who have loud cars or motorcycles. I don't like it. I don't like listening to it. It's very annoying. Hi, Ciara, welcome in. It's been a little while. We are just spinning up some undyed cotton today. Cannot go wrong with some undyed cotton. I've got a couple of ponies to spare from yesterday that I didn't spin up, and then after that, we'll card some more. But I think I'm really finally getting the hang of carding these for thicker spinning. Like, tension is still the key. I was right initially when I thought the tension would be the key for these. It is. But for thicker spinning, it turns out the less tension, the better. You want like a nice fluffy wool rowag type situation rather than a tight puni that you're looking for like thread spinning, which, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed. Sorry you weren't able to come here recently. Oh, no worries. This is like, I haven't done a lot of streams recently, actually. I've been resting a bit. So, perfect timing. I think you only missed one, honestly. You also dislike loud vehicles. Yeah. It's like having your own personal preference is one thing, but it's not a personal preference when everybody on Earth can hear the damn thing. Like, now you're making it my problem, and I don't want it to be my problem that your car is super loud. But it is. I also have similarly very strong feelings about people who blare music on the bus or talk really loudly on speakerphone on the bus. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people do not have the same level of regard for noise in public space that I do. And it's very frustrating because my expectations and their expectations do not seem to coincide. And that annoys me at 6 in the morning. But oh well, it is what it is. I recently remembered that you can listen to music on like headphones and stuff. I didn't do that for several years. Now I am again. That's making the bus rides a little bit more tolerable. It doesn't exactly help for all the noises all the time right outside my window, but nothing to be done about that, really. Except for moving out of the city. Yeah, these new ponies are working just so much better, and like they're so pleasant to spin is the other thing. So wonderfully pleasant. There's no fighting it, I guess. And especially with cotton, I'm really used to it fighting me. And the fact that it's not is, yeah, just delightful. Also been spinning, or not spinning, I've been knitting up some socks that have been fairly delightful to work on as well. Mostly just because they're socks. Like, I just really love knitting socks. What can I say? But I did notice that one of the issues, I realized this yesterday on stream, one of the issues I'm having now is that I'm drafting so quickly that the middle whorl is actually no longer fast enough to provide adequate twist. So this skein is, I think I'm going to have to run it through, maybe run it through my Nano. And that way I could put it onto some Nano storage bobbins and do a traditional 3-ply that way. I might do that actually. I'll have to spin all the other ones on the smallest whorl for that to work though, and I don't know. Like the smallest whorl historically does not work on my wheel. It's yet another slightly broken thing on here. Like it kind of works, but not super well. But I haven't tried it with cotton. I've mostly tried it with linen and it really did not work. So I'm gonna give it a shot with cotton once I'm done with this bottom. We'll see what happens. It's really good to know about the thickness of the yarn and fluffiness of the roll-lag relationship. Yeah, I mean, take that with a grain of salt because I am always proving myself wrong and learning. But that's what I've noticed so far is that like the smaller and more compact you make the puni, the thinner your yarn will be. I haven't done any thread spinning in a little while, aside from thread plying, I suppose, but that really doesn't count. And I want to test that a little more. I want to see like, you know, how close to thread I get on this style of puni, which at this point I almost feel inclined to call a roll-lag because it's so roll-lag-esque. Like if I didn't know it was cotton, I would just immediately say, oh yes, that's a roll-lag. Starting up some wool combing waste right now. Wonder if it's true of that too. Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I feel like I always use the same amount of tension, or at least like not the same amount of tension, but I use the amount of tension to get to the same firmness of roll-lag every time, which I guess probably changes depending on like staple length and crimp and all that sort of thing. But I haven't ever tried to test the limits of that, so I have no idea. If you end up testing it out, I'd be very curious. Like with wool, I always just make the Rolag, and then that's where my thought process ends. I wish that I had done a lot more experimentation with wool initially, because I think I might have learned how to spin it a lot faster and gotten farther. It just didn't occur to me. I wasn't that kind of person back then. I imagine that the fluffiness, if nothing else, would help with long draw. Like an extra fluffy Rolag is probably better at long draw than a slightly sleeker, more compacted Rolag, right? I feel like I've read that somewhere at some point. But I've done so little wool long draw that I've never tested that. I have no idea. You have a bit of a natural experiment going on right now. You're not great at rolling them off the cards, so they vary a lot. You could just try to notice when you spin them up. Oh, true. Fair enough. I really like experimenting with natural variation like that as well. Because I find things will often turn out quite different for me, depending on so many different factors that I really can't even begin to guess. And if I split them up, like, I split up the ones that seem mostly one way and split up the ones that seem mostly another way. It is like a free experiment with very little effort put in there. Except interpreting the results can take some effort, but that's also kind of the fun part, I feel like. But yeah, I think the last wool experiments I've done were mostly about finding a good two-ply pattern, a two-ply way to spin and process Jacob. So specifically this like piebald, multiple colors in one Rolag. I was trying to figure out how to get a really nice two-ply out of that. And that was a while ago at this point. Maybe some sock yarn experiments, I don't know. But yeah, nothing for two moves. I always find myself measuring time in moves. Because like I won't remember much about a situation, but if it's taking place in a specific house or apartment, like I do remember when I lived there. So that's how I measure things. But yeah, not for 2 weeks. I feel like I didn't do a whole lot of wool spinning at the last place I lived at all, though, and I also have not done a whole lot of wool spinning here. But I've made up for it with my cotton spinning. And at the last place I lived, I did do a fair amount of flax spinning, which it takes a lot of effort, so it's got to count for something. The only thing with these super fluffy style poonies is that the VM seems to be even harder to remove, like the debris in there, which really is not ideal. I'm hoping that a lot of it will sort of work its way out with time, but even so, it's like at no point do you really want a blanket that's stabbing you. That said, I didn't remove any of the debris from my flax blanket. I gave up so quickly on that because it was already so hard to spin. And I feel like I've never noticed anything when I'm actually like using it. If I'm touching it and like studying it, I'm like, oh my gosh, so much debris everywhere. but then I'll use it and I don't notice. So maybe it'll be fine. I don't know. Yet another experiment. You love the Jacob you're spinning up. You're not doing anything particular with the colors. Jacob is so fun. Like, just the fact that it's multicolored is so... It's so fucking fun, especially when you're used to fleeces that are just the one color. And it's also just such a good breed. I feel like I've never worked with a Jacob fleece where I was like having to slog through it. I've always just really enjoyed every single Jacob fleece I've spun. And I've spun a lot at this point. More Jacob than anything else. Probably my favorite breed. Or up there, I don't know. I really do love me some Southdown. Like any down breed I'll enjoy. But Southdown in particular is just, I absolutely adore it. And Shetland is also really good, I will say that. But other than that, like, maybe those three tie for first place. There's some other breeds that I've had a really good time with, but I haven't managed to get a hold of enough of it to know if I just got like a really nice batch or what. Like Clun Forest is like that. I've spun some really beautiful Clun Forest and also some kind of Clun Forest. But the really nice stuff was like probably the nicest wool I've ever spun. Have not done anything with it. It's just sitting in a bag. I really should use up more of my hand spun. I keep seeing horror stories mostly on like the hand spinning subreddit, of people getting gifted like a huge box of old hand spun yarn from so and so's relative that was sitting in the attic for 20 years, and like 90% of it will be unusable because of moths or just deterioration. It's like, oh man. Like, it's not like you'd know. Presumably, if it's been left alone that long, that means you've probably passed on. But nonetheless, the idea of it is like, that's horrible. So I really want to use more of my hand spun, but I just don't know for what. I never know what to do with it. Like my spinning plans, even though I try and make knitting or crochet or whatever plans with each yarn, I rarely actually do them. Most of the time I finish it and then I do something else with it, such as sell it or stick it in a bag. Rarely, it seems, do I use it. I really got to get better about that. You have some that you use right away and some you spin up just to spin that you don't know what to do with. Yeah, I think I started out that way and then because like most of the time spinning the yarn takes a little bit less time than actually making something with it. Like the way that I work specifically, reason for that being that reason for that being that I tend to frog and start over so many times that it can take a really long time for me to actually finish something, which like I don't mind. I'm a process person, not a end result person, but great for actually using stuff up. It makes me feel a little bit better about the stuff that I've sold. Most of the time when I sell my spinning, I feel not so good. Even if I'm like know it's going to be used, and I'm happy about that. I just don't feel good monetizing my spinning, and I never have. But hopefully, at least they're using it. I guess I do use some of it right away, like at the moment. I mean, I did use all of those test skeins to make washcloths, and those are finished objects. But recently, I find myself like using up the mill spun that I have, because I'm like, well, it's just kind of a garbage project. Like I don't care that much about the end result, or maybe even I think it's going to be bad, so I want to test it on mill spun, and I just never turn that into a hand spun project. Or if I do, it takes me 3 or 4 skeins of mill spun, like practice and variations to actually get around to it. To the point that I've actually had to buy more mill spun, which I haven't done in en masse anyway, in like 5 or 6 years minimum. But I bought some good stuff, and I know what I'm gonna do with it too. I just bought like sock yarn, which I can't really spin super easily anymore, and I'm more invested in knitting socks than I am in spinning them now by a factor of about 1,000. And then I also just bought some, don't judge me, some cotton yarn. But the reason I bought the cotton yarn was because one of my coworkers like managed to pressure me into agreeing to make them bags, and I was sure as fuck not going to use my hand spun for that. So I just bought some cheapo dishcloth cotton for that. But like I know I'm gonna use up all that stuff. Maybe not all the sock yarn right away, but eventually I will. And then I have no such plans for my hand spun. It's ridiculous. You're knitting the Jacob up before you finish spinning it. That's a good way to go. I do that sometimes. I'm considering doing that for this blanket. The one thing that worries me though is that, I mean, it doesn't worry me as much with wool because I don't feel like I'm making such big leaps and bounds in my understanding of how to spin wool at this point. Like the learning curve has flattened out pretty significantly with wool. But with cotton, like I have a feeling that my first skein that I'm working on right now is going to be garbage compared to my last skein. And when you knit it up into a blanket like that, you can really tell. But I guess on the other hand, I don't know if that's a bad thing. Like seeing the progression and the learning, like that's not terrible. Some might find it interesting even. I think it's more the durability though that I'm worried about. I wouldn't want half of my blanket to start falling apart and the other half to be fine. That would really frustrate me. I don't know. You luckily have a friend you can send socks, cowls, and hats to. They used to be a knitter, but their disability stops them now. That's cool. I'm glad that you've got someone to send that stuff to. I do a whole lot of charity knitting at the moment and bag knitting. The charity knitting is really easy because I have uh, like an immediate outlet of people who need that stuff and will literally ask for it. So um, that makes it really easy to make a ton of extra hats that I certainly don't need myself and have no plans with other than to donate. But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know what to do. I'm sure your friend appreciates the handmade objects though. Like once you start getting used to having handmade stuff, it's I imagine it's really kind of crappy to go back. Like I've been using my hand spun and hand knit specifically to my size gloves for many years now, almost a decade now. That's the only gloves I've worn. And if I had to switch back to like normal ass gloves, I would not like that at all. The drop in quality would really suck. Hi, Skylark. Nice to have you in. You'll try to do charity knitting, you get so bored, unfortunately. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you certainly don't have to, you know? But also, if there is some object that you enjoy making lots of, there will probably be somebody somewhere who could really use it. Like, whether it's bags or hats or gloves, or even if you make a bag and then a hat and then a pair of gloves and then a pair of socks, like people would very much appreciate those sparse and intermittent donations as much as they would appreciate big donations. No, I hope that makes sense. I don't know. You should finish the gloves you were making. Oh, I have so many partial gloves. Don't remind me. Yeah, the new camera angle I've got makes it much easier to see the chuck, which is very intentional for sure. I wasn't really thinking about whether or not Chuck would be on camera more, but it's been a really good side effect, that is for sure. She loves the camera. I'm doing pretty good, Skylark. I had a decent day, and I'm very glad to be home. I did accidentally burn Chuck's tongue, I think. I was like, I gave her half a can for dinner yesterday because she just hasn't been eating full cans in a long time. Um, and so then I put the other half in the fridge in a little bag so the smell wouldn't get everywhere overnight. And then this afternoon, when I pulled it out, I was like, she probably doesn't want to eat a stone cold can. It's probably not going to taste like anything to her. So I put it in the microwave, but like it was only like 10 seconds. I think it was a little bit too much. She ate it after it cooled off, though, but I felt really bad. Other than that, I'm doing good, though. I hope you're doing good as well. I know, poor Chuck. I had to hold her, which was not a hardship, but I did have to. I had to console her for a minute or two. I think she was probably mostly confused. I don't think she's ever burned her tongue before because I've never tried to microwave a can before. But now that I have, I don't think I'm going to do it again. Maybe mix it with a little boiling water instead next time or something like that. I know, poor baby is accurate. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust. I want to get as much of this on camera as possible, but it's not super easy without constantly moving things around, and unfortunately, things are heavy. I don't want to do that. At this point, I don't know if more than one pass, like rolling it along the cards like I'm doing, does literally anything, but it's so satisfying. I probably will not stop. I'm not sure how many Goonies will make this time. Maybe like 6 or something like that. I don't think I have another 2-hour spin in me tonight. I will say that. So I'm not going to try for 13 again. Definitely got a little bit more left in me, for sure. So now that I've had that idea about running this less spun bobbin through e-spinner on like a low speed and high tension to just sort of add some more twist in there. Now that I've had that idea, because that would free up one of my bobbins, which would mean that I could easily do traditional 3-ply. I could also do an opposing 3-ply, which might have better abrasion resistance. I haven't gotten a conclusive test on that one myself. I have tested the opposing 3-ply versus traditional 3-ply versus chain ply in socks a few times, and I get slightly different results every time. And I think the reason for that is because I'm using different materials every time, like different breeds, and I'm not really controlling for thickness or um, anything like that. I'm not controlling for anything other than like how I ply. So it means that I don't have very good data at all. But I do really just like doing it. Like it's enjoyable. It's a little more enjoyable than traditional 3-ply is for me. So I'm kind of considering that. I might do a little bit more reading up, but I feel like spinning is one of those things where everybody else can get a conclusive result, but unless you get that same conclusive result, it does not matter for your spinning. Just because everybody has different setups and different, different processes, different materials, different tools, different everything. And due to that, the way that it works for one person is simply not that relevant for how it works for another person. Or at least that's been my experience. So I don't know. Like reading will really not get you that far, or at least it hasn't gotten me that far, or at least it hasn't gotten me that far. It gives me a jumping off point, but if I don't actually jump off that point, I got nothing. I think I have conclusively demonstrated to myself that chain ply is not it's not as durable, or if it is durable, then like maybe it's just that once the problems happen, they happen a lot faster. That one is hard to tell, but from a mending perspective, I don't like either. So chain ply is kind of the last resort, just for if I can't figure out a good way to make this work with my 3 bobbins and 3 plies, This is going so fast now. Like making these poonies, I'm pretty sure that when we first started doing this on stream, I was taking like 5 fucking minutes each. I'm pretty sure, or like several minutes, if nothing else. And now it's feeling not quite as fast as wool yet, but I have several years of wool experience, not even several months of cotton experience. So I'm so happy with how much faster this is finally going. Usually once I can do something quickly, that means I'm getting close to figuring it out, even if it's not perfect yet. That speed takes a lot of practice to get to, you know? The speed means that you've got the muscle memory down, and that is kind of the main battle for me most of the time. We're at 5 now. Let's do one more and see how long it takes to spin, because I'm a little curious what my prep to spin ratio is at this point. I think initially it was like they were both just very, very slow. And now that the prep is definitely faster, and I know the spin is faster, I'm just curious. You forgot you can't push on the flyer with long draw. Oh no. Yeah, not so much. I think that was just one pass, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that'll do. When I first started, I was also trying 9 passes sometimes. That's true. But I feel like I dialed in on 3 passes fairly quickly because the 9 passes thing was kind of driving me insane. But yeah, that is true that initially I didn't even know what the range of a good number of passes was. And I did do 9 passes. And it did nothing. Nothing at all. Like those first 4 passes, sure. And then everything after that, literally just a complete waste of time. But how else would I have known, right? Like I wouldn't have. Also, I think that this batch compared to yesterday's batch, these guys look a bit neater. I don't know if that means anything, but that's kind of nice. Okay, so we're about to spin 6, and we're at approximately 37 minutes slash 40 minutes. Just see how long it takes. Drink this. It's really satisfying when I get one of those huge, I know they're slubs, but I think of them as bubbles sometimes with cotton. They look like big bubbles. And then just kind of like draw them out. It's so satisfying when there's a really big one and it draws out really neatly. Like, I feel like I can understand why some people might do long draw, purely from a it's satisfying perspective. I did just realize, like 1 second ago. So long draw is good for really airy, fluffy spins, right? Which is not necessarily known for being the height of durability. That didn't occur to me until now. But I guess all the other stuff I'm doing will just have to make up for it. I mean, I don't even know how I would effectively spin this stuff using my classic inchworm technique. Because every time I default back to it, it goes really badly. And it like snaps all the time and it looks much worse and takes so much longer. So like it's kind of this or nothing and I enjoy it so much. Why would I not? I think like the key for figuring out at least how to execute long draw in a way that works It's not good, but it works. The key to that has been forcing myself to do it hands-on, kind of. Like, I am not babysitting it. I am not being particularly fussy. And I'm also, the less I let my hands like meet in the middle and start fiddling with things, the better it goes by a lot. Oh, so that was one in like 2 minutes. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Anyway, I do want a bigger sample size though. But yeah, like if I let my fingers be close together like they are right now, it's going to be much slower. It's going to be more fraught. It's just not going to work. Whereas if I force my hands to stay farther apart, except for example, debris moving purposes or yarn fixing purposes, other than that, if I don't let them get that close together, it's much faster, much more effective. So that's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily have like figured that out with wool, I feel like. Because wool, it's just not anywhere near as hard to spin. Of course, now I'm kind of ruining my time, but I guess like I will have these sorts of issues no matter what. There was a thin spot right where a piece of debris also was, and due to that, it snapped. Or would have snapped. I don't think it actually snapped. I wasn't paying attention. I think it might have just looked like it was gonna snap, and I was like, better not. Unclear. You don't really like fluffy yarn, which sucks because you love long draw. That does suck. I mean, there's got to be some techniques or things you can do to get a non-fluffy yarn from long draw. Like, I feel like how you ply it has got to have a pretty significant impact, right? Like if you leave it as a singles, it'll be very fluffy. And two ply, also probably pretty fluffy. Once you start getting into 3 and 4, especially ply, I think you could cut down on the fluffiness, like the more you ply it. Especially a late 4 ply would be, because like you're compressing it so much at that point. But I do understand. I don't tend to go for super fluffy yarn myself, just because like I don't live in that cold of a climate, and I do prize durability over warmth most of the time, because I'd rather have like 2 colder layers that'll last a long time than one really warm layer that's gonna self-destruct quickly. So you've done both with cotton. You think because of the short staple, there isn't as much difference as with wool. That's interesting. I just unrolled this section to find, or like to locate and remove a piece of debris that I wasn't liking, and then as soon as I unrolled it, it disappeared again. Don't like when that happens. Yeah, it actually feels like the amount of debris in each puni has a bigger impact at the moment on how long it takes me to spin than anything else, because if it's got a lot, I'm just going to be pulling it out constantly. Unless I can stop myself. Sometimes I end up like wasting a lot of time trying to pull it out, even if it's not bothersome, simply because I found it. And so I'm like, okay, remove. Even though it's not sharp and it'll definitely fall out by itself. I gotta practice a bit more discipline there, because I say while actively removing debris. Because like it doesn't matter. And I don't enjoy picking VM out of stuff anywhere close to as much as I enjoy spinning stuff, but here I am, spending tons of time picking VM out. So that first one only took 2 minutes, and we are at 4 minutes for this one because of the VM. Largely, I would say. I don't think there was anything particularly different from one roll lag to the next, so, or one Puni to the next. Uh-oh, spun the wrong way. For once, it wasn't even because I forgot. My foot slipped on the treadle. And I treadled when I didn't mean to. But that's kind of an achievement. I'm no longer spinning it the wrong way all the time. I bet when I switch back to Lowell, I'm going to be so annoyed at myself. Bet I will have a lot of problems spinning it the wrong way all the time. I'll just have to do some stuff for crochet. When I spin wool for crochet, I always spin it stem-wise rather than a wool-wise. Because otherwise it untwists, you know? And I don't really like it when it untwists. One thing that I still am struggling quite a bit to get a handle on is how much twist I ought to be adding when I'm doing long draw. I can't figure it out. Like not how much twist to add, I know that, but how much do I want built up before I start drafting it, I guess, if that makes sense. Because I have a lot of success when I do a ton of twist, and then I have a lot of success when I do very little twist. But then it's random. It's like I can't really tell which is better or what other outside factors are influencing. So I think I have to just keep spinning, and eventually I will figure it out. You're finding the fluffy Rolags want to be thicker. You don't know if that is conclusive yet. I mean, conclusive is going to be hard either way, but that is definitely what I'm experiencing. Like they want to be thicker and they're better at being thicker, you know? But yeah, keep us updated. I'm very, very curious. You know, I bet half the time the VM flies off when it hits the hook anyway, like the orifice or the hook or any other number of metal parts that it will hook or that it will hit at some point during its spinning and flying drone. Like, I should not be quite so precious about this, especially when a piece is already falling off, but I cannot help myself. I don't know. I guess, like, I have a hard time not picking things. I have so many scars that would not have scarred if I hadn't picked the scab off 1,000,000 times. Maybe this is just representative of that, actually, now that I think about it. It's the same kind of urge, so I wouldn't be shocked. That one, also 4 minutes. Okay. Interesting. Maybe I was just really speeding on that first one. Or maybe more like 3 minutes. I don't think I was quite finished when I measured that second one. We'll see. Say we're at 49 right now for the sake of counting any gaps that I inevitably take to look at chat. I'm still not quite at the point where I can continue spinning and quickly glance over at chat with Cotton. I'm not there yet, but I feel like I'm getting there because I find myself doing it anyway, just not really thinking about it, and I'm no longer having the catastrophic fuck ups that I was. It's more just that it's not ideal at the moment. But when I was doing the wool, I could really quite easily, actually. Oh, he's hiding behind one of my, I don't know, table things, like lying in one of the cardboard boxes that she loves, and hiding behind it. And I can like vaguely hear her breathing, but I couldn't see her. I had to wildly look around, but she's just like a foot away, and she looks so sleepy and somewhat angry at me. Probably because I'm not in bed. But it's too bad. I've caught you to spin. It's really like watching this is really quite crazy. When I first started thick spinning cotton, this, like, if I had been looking at this, I would have thought it looked so precarious, and like such a bad idea. But like the more I do it, the more I realize that leaving it this loose and open is really the only way. There's no better way to do it, at least for me. But it's it's really odd. I had a moment there of sort of looking at it through my past eyes of 1 month ago, if that, and thinking like that's not going to work, but it does. Okay, that one was 2 minutes again. We're averaging 3 minutes. Hey Zotra, nice to have you in. Briefly passing by. Thanks for passing by. We're just working away on this. It's going so fast and so satisfying. So having a good time. In your experience, the amount of twist at the roll lag affects the thickness of the yarn. Yeah, I'm finding that too, but then making it do what I want. That's the hard part. Like figuring out how much twist I should add to get XYZ effect. I can't. I'm not there yet, Picking at things is satisfying though. It really is. It really truly is. That's the problem. I wonder like how many people died of infections because they wouldn't stop picking it open again. Like I was definitely one of those people in like the 1300s or whatever, picking at an open wound repeatedly until I died from it. I could easily see myself doing that. Like I've caused some pretty bad injuries that way, like that were far more painful than the initial thing that caused the injury and the scab. Like picking it open would be so much more painful, and cause so much more damage. And yet, have I ever learned? No, not even. I'm more self-aware about it, but that doesn't really help me very much. Yeah, we really are averaging about 3 minutes per puni, which is like astoundingly good in comparison to how slow it was initially. Especially, like I think I was spinning quite a bit thicker initially too, and I've backed off that a little bit because I've decided I want a more worsted yarn. Like I want worsted rather than bulky. I just think it'll be a bit better. And I also only have one size of needles I can use to make this with. And I got a really good result with my mill spun cotton summer blanket on those, and that was a worsted. So, but that means I'm spending quite a bit more time spinning because it's like time per inch, not time per ounce, or in this case gram. So light. But yeah, I'm miles faster than I was, which is really nice. I don't really enjoy competing against other people, but competing against myself is like one of my favorite. I always want to do better than I did last time. I know it's fast. Like comparatively, so much faster. And it's so I was struggling real hard initially too, and I don't feel like I'm struggling now, which is just really nice. Like maybe at times I'm struggling, but for the most part, I just get to zoom along, which is really fun. You can't tell, I'm really enjoying this. I think this, like how fast and how fun this is solidifying in my brain that I don't need to diet. At least I don't need to diet before I've finished spinning it, because it's just undoubtedly going to add to my processing time, and it definitely always takes away from the fluffiness because you have to scour it first, and it seems that the act of scouring it makes it much more, um, I don't know, compact. Like it's not fluffy anymore. That's what I seem to be finding every time I wash this stuff. Is that it's not as good anymore after I've washed it. But if I spin it first, not really the case. So yeah, I think we're just gonna go with the undyed stuff because it's so fun. And maybe at times we'll branch out to the dyed stuff, but I don't think it's necessary to keep my enjoyment. That was the main reason I wanted to dye it first and then spin it, was because I thought I would just hate it, but I don't. If it's for wool, yes. Because it's cotton, no. I mean, I can find enjoyment in spinning white wool. I can, but I have to focus on it. I have to try and like look for things that are enjoyable about it. Whereas I don't have to look right now. It's like all very enjoyable. That said, my knee is not enjoying this. So okay, that was six Rolag or six Poonies rather in 20 minutes. I think we were at 37, right? So it's six Poonies, 20 minutes. That's insanely better comparatively. We're gonna make some more because it's not even an hour in yet, so obviously got to make at least a few more. But I think initially I was getting like six Poonies, and that was an hour and a half to spin or to like prepare, spin, and ply them. And we're not counting the plying, obviously, but that is always the shortest part. That was like 10 minutes at the end usually. So wow, I'm very happy. Yay for improvement for real. I could do that on this, couldn't I? The thing that's currently slowing me down, like the major slowdown for carding it, is that I'm still, of course, I start talking about it as soon as I'm done, so I can't just demonstrate. But I'm still sort of having to brush it on, like brush the fiber on instead of with wool. I don't do that. I don't need to. It sorts itself out so quickly that I just sort of, vaguely pile it on, and that is more than enough. So I think that might be the next thing I try to work on at some point is, can I still do this in two passes or maybe three, because that'd be faster than doing it as I am at the moment, but just like plonk it on. That would be nice. I don't really enjoy brushing it on. Like it's not terrible, but it's not very interesting, and like it's not super satisfying or anything like that. Just sort of, that's what I'm doing. This part. Initially, I found that when I didn't do this, big problems. Like it was kind of just impossible to ever card it. But I also, my carding technique was shit at that time. I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I don't know. But I feel like I spend as much time putting it on the cards as I do actually carding it and then turning it into a boonie afterwards. If not, maybe even more. You only spun 4 Rolags in that time? Gosh. What are you using, though? Like, are you using a wheel? An electric wheel? I cannot remember. I hate to say. I know we've talked about it before, and I absolutely cannot remember what you use. The Nano? I feel like I can go a hell of a lot faster on my spinning wheel than, like, on my treadle wheel than I can on my Nano, is the thing. Like, you can really sort of sprint and lean into it with the wheel in the way that I have not ever figured out how to do on the Nano. So I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if this was just a little bit faster than either the Nano or just e-spinners in general. It wouldn't shock me necessarily. Like in the way that supported spinning is just sort of faster than drop spindling. But that is cool. I mean, I only did 6, so that's not exactly the world's biggest discrepancy. You really enjoy that part, the layering it on? That's interesting. If you did mean layering it on, do you like? What do you enjoy about it? And are you really particular and like put it on nice and neatly, or I'm just curious because that's never been the big thing that I like for me. Like I don't hate it, and I've never hated it, but it's not the draw, for me. Very curious. I think we'll do one more, and then if we end up spinning all these, that will mean that we've spun 15 poonies in one session, and I think that has to be enough. Absolutely has to be. I'm experimenting. Maybe you can tell already. Experimenting with letting myself be much messier already. We'll see. Like that one, I was super messy with that. I think I got it okay in 2. It could use another pass. I'm looking at it, and it really could. But I'm curious if it's gonna actually be noticeable in the yarn or not. Because if it's not, then that extra pass is really just for aesthetics as a poonie and nothing else. So I think I'm going to spin this one first and try and compare and contrast a little bit. Like it looks the same as the other ones once it's actually been rolled up. Of course, that said, I have certainly made and then spun my fair share of Rolags that looked absolutely fine and then were hellish torture to actually spin. It certainly happens, though. Not discounting that. You don't have to treadle, which is great for you. Well, yeah, absolutely. Would not suggest acquiring or trying a treadle wheel just for the speed of it. That would be a little bit absurd. You don't know, it's just nice. You were doing that with the wool, and it just did interesting things visually. That's fair. That actually makes a lot of sense, like sort of a visual stim. That's a good point. I guess this is not like visual stims in general are not something that do anything for me. So that would sort of make sense as to why it's nice for some people, but not for me. We're a very diverse group in how we spin, for sure. But also, find me two spinners who spin the same, right? You didn't know that for supported versus drop. I will say that's just my observations. I haven't found anyone else ever directly compare the speed of the two. I did a couple of experiments a few years ago trying to see like how much yardage I would spin on one versus on the other, or like on my wheel, on my drop spindle, um, and on my supported spindle. I tried all three. I didn't try my nano because I actually might not have had it at that point. But what I found was that drop spindle was the slowest by it was about 50% slower than the wheel, which is crazy. I thought it would be a hell of a lot slower. Um, but it was only 50% slower. And then my supported spindle was only 30% slower than my wheel was. And I mean, to be fair, I wasn't really racing myself. I wasn't going for super speed. I was just sort of trying to spin as normally as I could. Um, and that was the results I got. Which, yeah, it surprised me. It didn't surprise me that supported versus drop is that way, though, because with supported, you're not really, there's none of that time where you're just like spinning with your arm in the air, waiting for it to build up twist, which even if you're experienced at supported, I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of that. It's like that just happens. And additionally, you're not working with as long of lengths to wrap. You're working with these really short lengths. And depending on how you spin it, like how exactly you use the supported spindle, you might sort of just be flicking it to wrap it around. And that's super fast as like compared to with the drop spindle, the way that I wrap it around is manually. Like I try twirling it sometimes on my thigh, but mostly I just do it manually, which is very slow. But I think that sort of thing, it's got to come down to how you spin. It all comes down to that. Because, for example, if I were to actually twist my drop spindle and twirl the yarn on that way, it would be faster. I just don't, it doesn't work like that for me. I tried it, it doesn't work. But I know it does for some people. I've seen them do it. So like I feel like if you want to know how it is for you, you would have to do it yourself. Because how it is for me is not going to be the same. So many different ways to spin. That's why it's so fun. For real. So many different ways, so many different things to spin, colors and textures and stuff. I love spinning so much. I'm so glad I got into it. Like the awe of getting to turn a matted piece of whatever into a beautiful, colorful, like fluffy rolag, and then from there into like a work of art is just it's just magical. Even after I think I've been spinning almost a decade now, if not a decade. So even after about a decade, it's still really lovely. It doesn't get old. All of my other hobbies I've moved on from. Like painting, I've moved on from. Writing, I've more or less moved on from. Athletics, obviously. Gardening. Like many things I haven't had a choice. But a lot of things I just don't feel the spark anymore. And that has never ever happened with spinning for me. It remains interesting. I hope it never does. For no other reason than I've sunk an insane amount of money into tools and materials for this hobby in a way that I have not with any other hobby. Let me tell you. You do feel spinning is special. Me too. It's yeah, it does feel very special to me too. Everything about it just sort of feels like coming home a little bit. I think as odd or possibly insane as this might sound, um, my reaction to spinning is like the main reason that I believe in reincarnation. Because when I started spinning, I was bad at it. I was just so incredibly bad. It took me like literal months just to make yarn. I'm not talking to make good yarn. I'm talking to actually successfully make a couple like yards of yarn. It took me months of trying it, and it was terrible, and putting it away and trying again. And but I kept doing it, even though at the time I did not persevere like that for anything. But I did with spinning because it just felt like I just knew in my bones that I would get there. And then when I did get there, I really, not only was I right about that, but also this is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it feels so deeply and intimately familiar in a way that nothing else I've ever done has. So I'm pretty convinced at this point that I was a spinner in another life and possibly in like all the other ones. Maybe I've just always spun things. Does not seem to have done anything for my skill. Like it hasn't helped me in that regard, or inherent talent, maybe. Like I would say I have no inherent talent for spinning whatsoever. Um, I'm a very slow learner, and I'm not very good at it. But oh my god, I enjoy it so much. Who even cares, right? Like all the improvements that I've made, I have kind of had to claw, and that's not the case for like I would say I'm a talented writer. I picked it up quickly. I know what I'm doing, and I'm good at it. I've published a lot of things and won several awards. Um, and then I go to spinning, and it's like, wow, I'm not good at this, but I'm gonna keep going anyway for like a decade. I don't know. It's worth it. That's all I can say. You've only been spinning about 4 years now and can't imagine life without it. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, if I stop spinning, it will be because I'm forced to. I just can't imagine ever not having this as part of a way of life. Like, to the point where I manufacture reasons to be spinning and things to make just so that I can continue feeling connected to it. Like, at the moment, I'm crocheting a fucking lunch bag. And I was sitting at Grocery Outlet today, waiting for my meds to be done, looking at a $12 lunch bag, thinking this would probably actually keep my stuff like safe and cool better than whatever I make because it's insulated, and it's got a lot of padding, and it costs the equivalent of what I make in 1 hour, less than that actually by quite a bit, like 45 minutes. Whereas I've been working on this lunch bag for like a fucking week, and I've got very little progress to show for it. But that is just so not the point for me. Like, environmentalism aside, which is kind of hard because environmentalism is a big part of why I don't want to buy it. Uh, Environmentalism aside, the point is to make things and then get to use them, you know? Like, if I'm not doing that, what the hell am I doing? That's where I derive the majority of my enjoyment from life at this point. Is from making things and then getting to them. We've got one puni left, and I think we're gonna have to call it after this last one because my knee is really protesting. So yeah, we're gonna call it after this one, but like for how short of a stream that was so far, we've done kind of a ridiculous amount comparatively, you know? Like all those 2 hour long streams where yes, half an hour of that was the wool warm up. So I guess half-hour long cotton spinning streams where all I did was like one, I don't know, like 17 yards or something. Like yeah, 3-ply, but still 17 whole yards, hour and a half. This is such an improvement, even if I still do that. I will say, I have the fan pointed at me because otherwise my apartment is kind of brutally hot. But that is not conducive at all for spinning cotton. Like not even a little bit. Trying to line up these bits and the fan keeps blowing them away from each other. Okay. No, I bet that spinning cotton like this on a great wheel would just be so fun. A little annoyed I can't try that. I bet it's just incredibly good fun. It's rough trying to spin when there's a breeze for real. I've had so many like outdoor spinning attempts thwarted by any amount of breeze whatsoever. Can't even escape it in my own apartment with the windows closed and the fan purposefully pointing at me. Take care of my knee. I gotta for sure. If my knee goes, we're gonna have to switch to the Nano, which is just not quite as fun for me. So I don't wanna for that. Literally just that reason. It's not quite as fun for me specifically. Well, and also the take up. The fucking take up issues I have are, I don't know. I think maybe a better spinner could figure it out, but I sure as fuck haven't. Alternately, maybe just somebody who thinks about it slightly more. Like I do think about how to fix my tension issues, but I never get anywhere with it with the Nano. I always just end up being like, ugh, I'll just use something else instead. Which is frustrating because it has so much promise and they're such good tools. It's just that one glaring issue that I do not know how to circumvent. And it's like I think it's a design defect, really, given that pretty much everyone I know who's used one, specifically that model, they all seem to have that issue. But like, nonetheless, there's got to be a way around it. Just I'm not yet motivated enough to find it. I'm sure I will be eventually. It's just the last little length. At least my cat will be happy. She gets more cuddling time. But yeah. Let's see if I can bring it a tiny bit. Whoa, forgot how heavy the wheel is. See if I can bring it a tiny bit closer, but I have a feeling that the potato-like quality of my webcam, and also the glaring lights and the fact that it's white cotton. It's probably going to be hard to see the details. Maybe I'll post a picture on Tumblr as soon as I finish. Might do that. You'll soon discover that you only started this fall. Oh, Zertra. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fun trying to like circumnavigate it. I will say that. It's fun. Like that's all 13. This was 15, I think, or possibly 16. Because I caught all the other ones. Or no, why did I say that? I spun all but 5 in that stream yesterday. Or no, why did I say that? I spun all but 5 in that stream yesterday, and then today I spun those 5, and then I made 6 more, and then I made 4 more after that. So yeah, 15. That was 15 in an hour and 20 minutes. Very pleased with that. Barely got into the distaff hands is sweaty part. I haven't gotten there yet. I think I haven't done enough distaffing, you know? I'd like to, but they're really hard to hold for me specifically. Have I ever heard of pendulum wheels? They're a lot like great wheels, but you think they can be used seated. I don't know if it was you or somebody else who was explaining pendulum wheels to me. Is that like a long draw specific wheel? Where it's sort of like the arm like moves forward and back as you do the long draw? If so, I have heard of them. I have never used them or seen them in person, but I'm incredibly intrigued. You just caught up to the neat comment. Thanks for the stream and have a good night if I disappear before you catch up to the end. Oh, I hope the stream doesn't just like cut out for you when I end it if you're behind. That would suck. I really hope it doesn't do that. But thank you. I'll probably chat for another minute or two, frankly, but yeah, I had a great stream too. There's something like that. You've never seen one in person either, but they seem very cool. For real. There's not a kind of spinning tool that I think isn't cool. Even like a fucking spinning stick that is just a stick with something to catch it. I think that's pretty fucking cool. Like if you can make it work, that's awesome. Because I've used them, and I've also used things like pens and that sort of non-spinning tool to spin, and getting it going efficiently is not easy. So pretty damn cool when you can make it work. I think I should probably call it before my cat comes over here and bites me. She's already looking bitey. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out on stream. It's always so fun, and this one in particular, very fun. There's so much cotton on my pants. It looks like I got caught in a blizzard, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Always very fun. Sticks are awesome technology. So true. I'm pretty sure I'll be streaming tomorrow. Given how awesome this was, I feel like if nothing else, I'll do a short stream tomorrow, even if I feel bad, but hopefully longer stream. Definitely stream tomorrow. And I will catch you all at some point, whatever next stream you can. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Chuck also says good night immediately now. See you later.